Well, that was enough of that. Did you lose me in there and all the twisting and turning? Anyway, it's exercise and it's fun. Back to the grind of COPD. I don't consider it a grind. I live with it. Thank you, Tanya Butkin. She found one of my older videos dealing with COPD. Well, it's not that old. It was the one where I was discussing bathing routines and hygiene and how that's different. And she said she's going to be taking a new job and that she was really glad for the information. So thank you for sharing that. I hope all of you would feel free to share that kind of thing. Share your experience, because your experience is going to be different than mine. Now, last night we left off with I had been to the ear, nose, and throat doctor, and he had called the pulmonologist because I was coughing blood up from my lungs. And it wasn't just little bits. It wasn't streaks, and it wasn't, it was a lot. And I didn't mention, because I had already mentioned that I had been bleeding, but I didn't mention that the actual day we went up for the appointment with the ear, nose, and throat doctor, which will explain some of the things I said, I did start coughing blood up that day as well. And I was sitting out there in the waiting area. I was sitting there with this thing over my face, and it's getting all red, and and I'm trying to keep. And the nurses are just leaving me sit there, and it's like, guys, can there, it's like, can I find somewhere? And yes, I'm gurgling. And then, of course, so they took me in this room, and then we finally got it under some control, but I think that mostly came when the doctor stuck that endoscope and down. They do actually put a numbing on your throat. Sorry, I've had something rattling right in here, and it just doesn't want to let go. But I like dancing. I used to love to dance. I'm not saying I was great at it, but hey, I was using some of my minor exercises. And when you're first diagnosed, and let's get back, I'm getting ahead of myself, but let's go back to, you will go through, when you get diagnosed with any kind of lung disease that you're going to have to recuperate from, you're going to have what they call pulmonary therapy. More than likely. Depends on your doctor and what they recommend and your level. Okay, some of it, if you're not so advanced, you might be able to do a lot on your own. Anyway, back to how I got diagnosed. It was pretty traumatic because we didn't think it was COPD at first. What happened was they did what they call a pulmonary function test, which is you blow into this tube for as long as you can. They get their, and you do other things. They get their meter numbers, and it checks how much function how good your lungs are actually working. Actually, that's what it does. Anyway, who was it said they liked the way I say anyway? I think they were kidding. But anyway, it's like I can't move forward without it. When they did an x-ray, they found a long, probably about this long, several centimeters, growth inside of, I think it was my right lung. Which way does the heart set? This way? Set over the right lung. Anyway. They thought I had lung cancer. They thought it was a tumor. And it was a very significant growth, we'll put it that way. So back in, I had my very last cigarette. I weaned off cigarettes. I had used Nicorette before, but this time I weaned off. And it was a process. It took a few months, a couple of months at least. Anyway, my husband says he remembers my last cigarette as being on Veterans Day, 2005. Okay. And I don't want to disclude a lot of the story because it affects everything in your life. And so why should I hide what it affected in my life? Because you're going to need to know these things. If you do have it, it doesn't stop your life. It doesn't. But it interrupts at least, and you have to re-gear. And that's something, if you have it, or whatever, you need to realize, and if you're taking care of Tanya, your patient, if they are in, one of those moods, I've gone there, where they feel like it's just not worth trying anymore, try to redirect them into another direction, where they can find anything that they can feel good about doing. Okay, I'm getting long, but I want to keep this informative and personal. At that time, now I was in my 50s. I was right about 50. Anyway, I don't know. I'd have to refigure my age. 2005, yeah, I was right about 50. Anyway, I had been in school. My nursing career, I just wasn't able to do it anymore. And so I went to college. The reason I hadn't been doing my nursing was because of my mental status. Because stress seemed to send off panic attacks and stuff. Okay, so back to the 2005, I was in college getting my bachelor's degree in business. Now, I wanted something with psychology and stuff, and I took a lot of psych courses, and I also took a lot of humanities courses. Okay, different topic. Anyway, because of all the things that were going on with my health, they did an administrative withdrawal because it was too far in for me to do a withdrawal. I didn't really want to. But I was being stubborn, and they didn't think I was going to be able to hold up that many credits. So the school did an administrative withdrawal so that I would be able to come back then the next semester and not have to pay any more. But I did to ask them to let me continue on with one class, and that was creative writing. So there it gives you a sense of something that I did to keep my spirits up, because I needed to do something. And for me, creative writing and that class kept my mind off all the negative, although it was there and I did think about it. I was scared to death. I was afraid. Because they were talking about where it was not going to be operable, because it was right behind my heart, right behind some major blood vessels. And I was scared to death. And I didn't tell a lot of people. Part of the reason was because my sister-in-law was dying from breast cancer at the time. And, but finally we did have to tell them what was going on. But it wasn't until after my sister-in-law passed away that the news actually got out. Anyway, the first thing they did was took me in for They did two different biopsies. I was scheduled for a third. They did one where he went down with the endoscope and tried and took a little piece of it, of the growth from there. Came back benign. Hallelujah. The pulmonologist was concerned. He said, I really think there's cancer in there. We just got we didn't get in to the, in deep enough into the tumor. So we had a cardiothoracic surgeon go in. He went through my neck, down through the thoracic cavity here. And he went in through here and he snipped a piece. Came back negative. Came back benign. Which means no cancer. So, he was like, I'm going to make sure. They wouldn't allow, the insurance wouldn't go for a PET scan. Anyway. Finally, the last one was going to be a guided biopsy with radiology, using a scan type thing. Okay, when the doctor took a look at it, and I said, did you compare measurements? I was just curious is all. And he says, well, not yet, but I will. When he came back, he said, Mrs. Fralin, I am sorry, but I'm not going to do a biopsy on someone whose tumor's getting smaller. And I was like, at first when he said, I'm sorry, I was like, oh no, it's worse. And then he says that, and he starts laughing, and I am just tears. Thank goodness I did not have lung cancer. Turned out the growth was due to a severe infection I had had. We believe it was the one I had in my sinus, and it was actually an abscess from a tooth that had filled a sinus and had not put enough pressure for me to feel it until it did. Now, the dentist had drilled that and had let it drain, but we believe that's where the infection came from. I'm already at well over 12 minutes. So, and this won't let me go over 15. So anyway, we've come to a point where we have not got cancer. We're still walking around without oxygen, and we're using an inhaler. And I have another doctor's appointment because they did discover the COPD. And so we're going to be deciding what to do from there as far as pulmonary therapy or pulmonary rehab and oxygen therapy, that kind of thing. And I will discuss that next time. I'm probably going to have to cut some of this down anyway. Thank you, and I'll see you later. Have a good one. My stars. See you tomorrow.